Welcome to Recalculating Small Business. Like its award-winning book, Recalculating is dedicated to small business in America.
We draw our name from Recalculating, voted the best small business book of 2017 by the Independent Press. In this book, it features ways to grow your small business. Now, here's Don Mazzillo.
Dan, our next guest is someone I'm really looking forward to talking to, because I just heard last night that a friend of mine with a seven-year-old business was forced to go into bankruptcy because he did not do certain legal things. But our guest today is James Rosseau of the LegalShield, whose Consumer Financial Stress Index has been predicting a drop in consumer confidence for the last 3 months. And I have to tell you, it's been one of the most prescient of all surveys I've seen over the past few years. But he's also got a company that I really think our audience should know about. James Rosseau, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Don. Good to be with you.
Well, I'm going to turn, right after you finish, I'm going to turn it over to Dan. But tell us a little bit about your company, about you, and where people can learn more.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, again, the name is James Rosseau, and I'm the CCO, the Chief Commercial Officer for LegalShield. Jeff Bell's our CEO. We are based in Ada, Oklahoma. We're the largest provider of legal services in North America. We also serve the four provinces in Canada, and we have over 1.65 million members and serve over 140,000 small businesses. LegalShield's premise, our whole model is built around the idea of providing equal access to justice, and in fact social justice for that matter. And really, if you think about the legal system, I think historically folks have seen it as inaccessible, unaffordable, sometimes non-responsive, and unaccountable. And we look to resolve all of those by making it affordable for the average person and small business owner to have legal access, right? Legal is not one of those areas where ignorance is bliss. And so not unlike when you're doing certain things around a home, there's certain things you can try to do as a handy person in your home, but there's certain things you would not go and do yourself. Maybe it's your roof or certain electrical matters, etc. And practice in law is not for the lay person. People need a lawyer to represent them adequately, and to the point you made in the opening, to help small businesses and protect them in the things that they may not know, right, and to really guard the health of their business.
Dan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Don. Good morning, James. Thanks for coming to the show today.
Good morning. Thank you.
In the case of small business, what is the one or two common mistakes that people who have small businesses make that leaves them exposed legally?
Got it. And do you mean connected to the law index or just in general?
In general.
In general. Well, a lot of times when you think about a small business owner from the onset, they're volatile usually financially, right? Many small business owners which I think we all would say are heroes in our communities, right? They're Main Street businesses, start their businesses out of personal savings, home equity loans from friends and family, and so cash flow is king. And in many cases, the things that would help them guard their cash flow may not be cared for. For example, depending on what type of business it is, there are going to inevitably be vendor relationships and contracts with those vendors. And those contracts that are submitted to them by those vendors are going to be written with the best interest of the vendor at mind, not that small business owner, right? And having someone to review that contract line by line, precept by precept, and ensure it is structured in a way that helps that small business owner guard their assets, that ensures there are service level provisions within it, because if that vendor doesn't deliver, that often means that small business owner can't deliver to their customer, is really important, and that's where a lawyer comes in. That's point one. I would, so in terms of exposure with suppliers and vendors. And then point two on protecting cash flow is accounts receivable. And accounts receivable is a major issue in a business that is dependent upon, paying, quote unquote, 30 days, 60 days, etc. And to the extent that people do not pay and they have to employ the service of a collection agency. As we both know, those collection agencies have to take their cut. And so what, should have been $1 to the small business owner quickly becomes 90 cents, 80 cents, 70 cents, 60 cents. And in both of those cases, a lawyer steps in. A lot of our small business owners use lawyers to help motivate people that owe them funds from an accounts receivable perspective through writing letters, making phone calls, etc. That's exactly what you should have at the helm for you as a small business owner, right? Legal advice, protection, counsel, and someone who can take actions when needed to as well.
So let's go back to your name, LegalShield.
Yes.
And tell us what your company does.
Our company provides legal services primarily, and it's a mission-oriented company. Started some 45 years ago. Yesterday was our 45th birthday, and it was born out of the need of our founder seeing firsthand through his own experiences that, again, access to the legal system was difficult. Often viewed as, again, non-accessible, non-affordable, unresponsive, unaccountable, and people have a perception of lawyers that they're, to a certain degree, even unapproachable. And what we did was figure out a way, our founder, to make it affordable by having a low monthly cost of roughly $19 and give you access to attorneys to call on an unlimited set of matters. It's a little more expensive for small business owners. A small business plan started around $39 a month, but a small business owner that can then call again on unlimited matters. He's not on an hourly rate basis. He doesn't cut the conversation short in fear of a big bill coming from the attorney. This allows business owners to call for counsel and get advice. And again, we serve over 1.6 million families today and over 140,000 small businesses.
Do you assist your potential customers in forming corporations and wills and trusts and estates?
We do. And so I'll give you the full suite of services. So we offer individual and family plans to individual consumers. We offer small business plans to businesses, and we even tier those plans and pricing based on the size of the business to give those small business owners that kind of financial leniency, if you will. We also, within those plans, particularly on the consumer side, have wills and estate planning services that are included. We also have a feature called Snap, where if you get a traffic ticket, you literally take a picture of that ticket and it goes right to your law firm. And I'd underscore your law firm. And we have firms in every state. So you don't go out to a random 800 number and get to a referral. You call your law firm, who then works on your behalf. We also have a business called Launch, literally to help you launch your business. So if you're a new founder or entrepreneur, and whether it's a sole proprietorship or LLC or Corp C, et cetera, we will do that for you. And then we also are the second leading provider in identity theft protection with our product called ID Shield. And ID Shield covers everything from monitoring to consulting, investigations, and restoration should you have an identity theft issue.
So that's an impressive list of services. Let's move on to the Consumer Financial Stress Index.
Yes, sir.
Is this something that your company originated?
It is, and I'll give you the backdrop. Because we're the largest provider of legal services in North America, we have an incredible data set. And we went back and looked at our data back to 2002. We took 15 years of data, engaged an outside economist firm, and said, hey, look at the data and tell us, is it predictive relative to the economy? And let's start with looking at some comparisons to things like the Consumer Confidence Index that we've all gotten so used to seeing from the University of Michigan's Conference Board. Let's look at it relative to the National Realtors Housing Starts and Wells Fargo Real Estate Index, and we found in not only strong correlations, but because the data was so robust, we also were able to see high level of predictability and foreshadowing data, meaning that it was in many cases 1 to 3 months ahead of some of those other indexes I mentioned. And so the Consumer Confidence, the Consumer Financial Stress Index, rather, gives you a perspective on where consumer confidence is. And the big piece I would tell you, Don, is that a lot of times things are done via surveys, right? And as we all know, surveys get people get their intent, right? What we're talking about is usage. This is based on what customers have called their attorneys to ask them to do. So whether it's start my foreclosure, start my bankruptcy, help me with a real estate transaction, etc. And so we found our data to lead consumer confidence. So to your point, for the last 2 or 3 months, we've been stating that consumer confidence, as reported, has been overstated. We see it coming down because we see financial stress increasing, which means confidence will come down. And then last month, in fact, we saw the conference board finally state, it needs to come down. And the reverberation of that is the impact and what it means to business owners, large and small, right? Particularly as you head into the fall. As we all know, the fall is a big time for retail sales. And think about it. I mean, just 1/10 of a point change in confidence that rolls into spending difference makes a big deal in retail sales as you head into the fall and winter season.
I am a registered investment advisor. I've been managing money for almost 44 years, and I'm independent. And so I do a lot of my own research. 2 things that came out recently that have spiked in my mind as something to begin to be worried about. Well, for the longest time under the previous administration, we saw people, even though household incomes were declining, we saw the savings rate go up and the amount of debt decline. Just recently, within the last week, I heard that the level of credit card debt is at a historical high. The second one, which gives me more concern, is that as I was on a sojourn that took me from up through the Midwest, across over to the Northeast and down to the Southwest, one thing I consistently heard in all those markets: advertising for 1% down home loans and advertising for loans in excess of up to 125% of the appraised value of the house. This is deja vu of 2007 all over again. And I'm concerned, and I've seen what's happened to housing prices here in Southwest Florida, how rapidly they've risen. We've got people that are stretched in terms of debt. We've got housing prices going up, cheap money in the mortgage market, too cheap. And I see the stress. I'm more concerned about not so much consumer confidence, is that we're hitting another bubble like we did in 2008 and 9.
Right. Yeah, and that we looked at that as a part of our research, the bubble in 8 and 9, and at that time I was in another company working in the credit card environment, but I was part of J.P. Chase. I mean, my background is easy to see, and to your point, we remember all of those circumstances, and while we don't want to speculate today, I would agree with your initial assessment, right? I mean, add to what you said. Watching the trend on car loans, right? Car loans used to be back in the day 36 months, and it was 48 months, and then 60 months. I mean, now you're watching 72-month, 84-month car loans being issued, right? And so to your point, the debt, the rise on debt is somewhat troubling. I just had the opportunity last week to speak on a panel in regards to affordable housing. And housing is a challenge. I mean, we believe by what we see in our housing activity index that housing should be coming back, but there's still some concerns with the input prices, and so we need to see annual housing, new housing starts come up to more that 1.3, 1.4 million rate, and it's struggling to get there. We believe it's going to happen, but to your point, there's enough in the system to suggest we have some challenges.
So what other services does your company provide for small business?
Well, we also provide, again, with the small business legal plan, again, the consultation around legal services and all those things you're going to need. So, I mean, it's the things that are often taken for granted. If you're a small business and you're not working from home, but you have an out-of-home location, you're hiring employees, guess what? You should probably have an employee handbook. and have them sign off that they've received the handbook and understand the policies, procedures, and such, and how to operate in your business. The small things that turn into big things, right? Doing just that process helps you avoid potential wrongful termination and the potential unemployment expense associated with that. And again, those things fester and just become bigger issues. That's a big part of what we do. We also have a product called Small Biz in partnership with Go Small Biz, owned by Fran Tarkenton, which supplies a host of services in addition to the legal plan. So if you need business consultation, you need a accounting system, customer relationship management system. As a part of that Small Biz package, you get broader suite of business services.
Dan, I have a very specific question. When someone starts a company, in one of our books, in fact, Recalculating, we talk about the fact that not only should you have articles of incorporation, but you also should have agreement about dissolution, about what happens if one partner wants to leave, or unfortunately if one partner passes away. What are your thoughts on that?
Handling dissolutions?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. You want a lawyer involved in that process. It's a very cumbersome process. Has, without a doubt, has a lot of tentacles associated with it, and so it's one that needs to be done thoughtfully and with guidance from someone who has expertise, without a doubt.
Dan, back to you.
Yeah. Does your company also help small businesses set up retirement plans?
Within our plan, yes, we can definitely give guidance on help them set up retirement plans and succession documents and all those sort of things. Absolutely.
And what about estates?
Yes, absolutely.
Handle estates.
Yes.
Where are you located again?
We are located and based in Ada, Oklahoma. So 2.5 hours away from Dallas. Yep. About an hour and a half away from Oklahoma City.
I've been there. I've been through there. So and your services are available as I understand it, on the web, and when you have a question or a problem, once you set up your account, you can go to your web and you can get a local attorney who will work with you in whatever areas that he is or she is expert in.
Yes, that's exactly right. So we have proprietary law firm in each state, and those our attorneys do a wonderful job. Average tenure of attorneys or experience is 20-plus years. The law firms have been with us for quite some time. But to your point, there are always going to be certain areas of law that are more of a specialty, right? And if you hit one of those areas of law, entertainment law is a great example, right? The average attorney is not going to be deep in entertainment law. Then we get you an entertainment lawyer, right? We refer it out. We still control the process. And one of the things I'd really love to spend a second on is quality is everything for us. So we provide service levels to our members in terms of when we will get back to them on a particular issue. We also measure ourselves by Net Promoter Score, which for those not familiar listening to the program on Net Promoter Score, it's the way companies ensure that they're providing great service. After each interaction, you ask your customer, would they refer you and promote you? Would they not, or are they neutral? And you want to make sure most people are saying they would refer and promote you. We pride ourselves on having a 55 or above Net Promoter Score, which is very good. And so we do the same no matter if it's one of our attorneys in our core provider firms or referral attorney to ensure our customers get the very best experience.
We're with James Rosseau. He's Chief Business Officer for LegalShield. And we're talking about how his company helps small businesses protect themselves, as my friend unfortunately found out, against unforeseen legal complications. Now we're back to you, Dan.
So just so we make sure that we understand, you're not a law firm. You are a referral service. Is that the best way to say it?
No, our company partners with law firms. So we have a proprietary network of law firms in our company. So yes, we deliver to law firms, right? And as a part of your membership, again, you get access to those law firms to handle an unlimited set of matters. And so You can call them several times a day. If you're handling, you may be a person at home getting ready to have your kitchen worked on by a contractor and need that contract reviewed. You may have landlord tenant issues. You may have, repair issues and need to send something back on warranty and the company won't honor the warranty. To your earlier question, you may need to prepare a living will or update your will, have some estate planning done, work on a real estate transaction. The list goes on, right, and the varying degrees of what the challenges could be. And we really promote wanting to ensure our customers and members are proactive. We give them a LegalShield mobile app, and we like to say we put a law firm in the palm of your hand, because on that app you can do all the things I just talked about. You can start your will. You can deal with a traffic ticket by taking a picture of it and have it sent to your law firm. You can call your law firm right from the app, hit one button, and dial your law firm, etc. So that's our promise. Our brand promise is making legal services affordable, accessible, responsive, and accountable.
I'm sitting here still digesting my friend's demise, because, as I say, he didn't have LegalShield or anything else when he started his business 7 years ago, and now he's just crying in his soup.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
James, I want to go back to a specific situation, not any real situation. It's a hypothetical, because I want to make sure that our audience and more importantly that I understand exactly how your system works. So let me see if I can articulate the way it works, and then if I'm wrong, you straighten me out. Company comes to you, a person comes to you at LegalShield, and they indicate they're looking for a lawyer. You tell them, in your area we have XYZ. They call you and they say, I'm looking for a lawyer. I want to start a business. And you say, well, we can give you a law firm in your locale, and your membership fee is $50 a month. When you pay the membership fee, and you then LegalShield assigns an attorney to be your attorney, as you proceed and do work with that attorney, do you owe anything to that attorney other than the monthly maintenance fee that they pay you?
Yes. So the way our model works is almost think of it like crowd sharing, which has been done in other places, right? So you bring the expenses down. When our members pay their monthly fee, the provider firm in their state gets a portion of that monthly fee, and that's what keeps the overall cost down. That's what helps ensure they can call on an unlimited set of matters. When you look at the average hourly fee for an attorney nationwide, it's going to be somewhere between, let's call it, $100 and $250 on the low side, right?
Right.
By allowing someone to be able to call unlimited, in an unlimited fashion for $19 a month, that's exactly how we make it happen.
So in my example, if I wanted to, I'm a young entrepreneur starting a business, and I've got a couple of kids, and I don't have a will. And I come to you and I say, I want to join your LegalShield service. I'm paying $50 a month, and you refer me to a local lawyer. Do I pay that local lawyer any more money to draw up the will than the $50 a month that I pay you?
No, you do not. The will is included. In fact, for most of our members, there's two things I would tell you about our business model and the way it works for members. Most cases are handled within the plan. Matter of fact, when we look back at our data, as you can tell, we're a data-centric company. Less than 5% of member situations had to go into any scenario where they had to pay additional. Less than 5%. Even in those cases, they get a heavily discounted rate. But it's pretty. That tells you a lot when 95% is satisfied within the plan that's offered in their monthly rate.
So the 5% must be some kind of an unusual litigation or something that is going to take time, and the $50 a month or whatever it is not going to cover it. So you may have some additional legal expense, but greatly reduced because of the membership in the plan.
Exactly.
And so when I go to the website, and you're going to tell me the website,
Absolutely. LegalShield.com. Couldn't be easier than that.
Right. I go to LegalShield.com. Can I pick my level of service?
Well, yeah. Well, it's based on plan and what the plan is for. So if you're individual, you can buy an individual plan. You can buy a family plan to cover yourself and your household, or you can buy a small business plan. And again, those plans are tiered based on the number of employees that you have.
So somebody like myself or Don, who are single employee entrepreneurs, self-employed, the business plan for one employee, what would that cost?
That's $39 a month.
So it's like a retainer.
Better than a retainer because, again, you know, for small businesses, again, cash flow is everything, right? To be able to predict and forecast your legal expenses and say it's $39 a month or that $480 annually is a big deal.
I've been in business for almost 50 years. I've never found a lawyer for $38 a month. So
exactly.
Sounds like a hell of a deal to me.
And that's what our small business owners say, and some of them, you know, marvel, and we get great testimonials. We love helping small businesses, you know, but when you get those testimonials of, you know what, I contact my lawyer at the top of every month. I give him 5 to 7 people who are on my accounts receivable list who aren't paying. They send letters out, so on and so forth, and I get great responses. They're helping my cash flow at $39 a month. That's pretty powerful.
So when you mentioned in your discussion with Don, you were talking about intellectual property. Don and I are both authors. Do you have a plan for people special plans like for people who are authors and writers and producers and film directors and things like that?
Not today. There's guidance they would get from the attorney. Depending on what they needed to get executed, they're going to get them to someone who's a specialist in their area.
And Don, how much time do we have?
We just have enough time for James to tell us his name, his website, and how people can reach him. Absolutely.
Well, again, the name is James Rosseau. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at LegalShield. Again, we're based in Ada, Oklahoma. Our website is LegalShield.com, and you can find all of our plans there that represent individuals, families, small businesses, as well as help with business formation.
It's been a real pleasure having you. We have to have you back because Dan has a lot of other questions for you.
Right.
Am I right, Dan?
Very happy to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.
Want to know more about health savings accounts for your company or yourself? Go to 2hsa.com and get a free employer's primer. Health savings accounts are a cost-effective way of offering health care benefits to your employees and yourself. HSAs build retirement funds for your employees, improve morale, and reduce your health care benefit cost. For a free employer guide to HSAs, go to 2hsa.com. That's 2hsa.com.
Dan Perkins here from Recalculating.biz. I want to tell you about Bob Bethel. Bob's new book is Strengthen Your Business, Fail-Proof Strategies for Small Business. His suggestions are easy to understand and very helpful. Bob Bethel's book, Strengthen Your Business, can be found at Amazon.com or can be ordered at your local bookstore. Dan Perkins with your featured book.
We're back here with Steve Murphy. Steve, I have 2 other questions. Where do you locate your stores? High income neighborhoods, middle income, low income. What's your demographic that you prefer?
Our preference is typically to be around where retail locations are, regional malls, outdoor malls. So we're typically located kind of within a 1-mile radius of the local malls. And the reason being is because, in those neighborhoods, we get kind of both sides of the equation. While we have the value-oriented customer, we're buying customers from all different demographics and buying merchandise from them, and we're selling to all different demographics as well. So we really want to be in kind of those retail spaces where customers are accustomed to going to purchase their merchandise. And that's also when they see us on the way to the mall or the way back from the mall, they'll know where we are and they'll know, what we do.
Mm-hmm. Steve, tell us the various franchisees for our audience.
We have Plato's Closet, which buys and sells teen and 20-something clothing. Style Encore, which buys and sells women's apparel and shoes and accessories. Once Upon a Child, which buys and sells kids stuff 0 to 12 years old. Play It Again Sports, which buys and sells sporting goods, and Music Around, which buys and sells musical instruments.
Back to you, Dan.
We're speaking with Steve Murphy, president of franchising at Winmark, and I want to move a little more detail into the franchising concept. We are, as you know, a show for small business and people who are not only in business, but people who are thinking about getting into the small business. So let's talk about the cost of your various franchising models. Are they all about the same price, or do they vary based on what the merchandise that they're reselling?
They vary a little bit. The apparel brands, which would be Style Encore, Plato's Closet, and Once Upon a Child, typically range in the startup range of $250,000 to $350,000, and Play It Again Sports and Music Around are typically in the $300,000 to $400,000. So a slight differentiation between them. And that includes all of your startup costs, which also includes $40,000 to $50,000 in working capital, as well as your inventory, which, depending on the brand, will be anywhere from $60,000 to $120,000 in inventory.
So you're starting a franchise, a franchisee is starting a franchise, and you're going to sell to them $40,000 to $60,000 worth of merchandise to open their store?
Well, what they're going to do actually is our franchisees go through 2 weeks of training, and when they get out of that second week, at that point in time they've secured their lease. They go through their build-out, and once the build-out is done, they're handed the keys to the building. For the next approximately 6 to 8 weeks, they will be in what we call our open-to-buy period. So we don't sell the merchandise to them. They will actually market to the folks in their community to come down to the store while they're getting their build-out done and they're getting their displays and all put up, and they will buy the merchandise from those customers for a 6 to 8 week period until they've hit the minimum requirements that we have set up for them. And then they'll turn around with a grand opening and actually be able to sell the merchandise back to the customers. And one of the really fun things about that is as you're buying all this merchandise from your customers, they're seeing all the merchandise on your walls, and they're getting really excited themselves at the value and the deals that are in there, but they can't buy anything from you until grand opening. So it builds up this really great buzz in the community and acts as a marketing tool so that when you do have that grand opening, it's not unheard of for us to see 100 to 120 people in line before we open up, because they want to get in there and get their hands on that merchandise. Because remember, because it's used, there's not like there's 20 of these in the store. There's going to be probably one. And they want to get in line to get that first before anyone else in the community does. So it really builds up a great marketing buzz and gets people really excited around those grand openings. So we have really, really solid openings on those opening weekends.
Okay. You said you're about 1,200 stores and you got 75 or so in the process of being open. Are you all over the country, or are you somewhat concentrated?
We're all over the country and in Canada as well.
And one thing that struck me about your product line, and I'm fascinated to hear how you respond to this. There seems to be one segment of people in your product line that isn't represented: men, and specifically men's clothing.
Yep.
By design?
Yeah, the challenge, and there's a few out there, independents that are in the men's resale business. I will tell you, from being a 51-year-old male myself, guys tend to wear their stuff until it falls off their body.
I agree.
So it's a very challenging resale market, because typically when they come to sell us something, the quality is no longer there. Right. We don't have a secondary market to sell that to. Now, that could change, but historically that's always been the challenge. But, in Plato's Closet, 20% of our business is men, young men, in that teen to 20-something. And young men tend to be a little bit more fashion-forward, especially today. They're a little bit more concerned with what they look and how they look, and they are more apt to come in and buy and sell merchandise with us, and it makes up about 20% of that business.
Do you think that the millennials will probably be a better customer, male millennials will be a better customer as a segment, because they may tend to because of their sense of style, they may basically just turn merchandise as opposed to wearing it till it drops off their bodies.
Yeah, I think young men especially. I think in that Plato's Closet demographic where we've got that teen to 20-something, we do see that. The challenge when they get out and they get into the business world is, there aren't as many suits being worn today as before. But the challenge is that you still don't see that male in that upper 20s and up age demographic really looking to change up their wardrobe enough. Whereas with women, the statistic is 20% of the clothing in a woman's closet has never been worn. And so they tend to go through that merchandise and refresh that merchandise more often. If, the trend as the millennials grow older is if they hold on to that and continue to be a little bit more fashion forward and more conscious of kind of style and what they're wearing, that might end up being an opportunity one day.
I can tell you that my wife could open up an entire store on just handbags.
Well, it's a hot item, I'll tell you that.
She never lets a good handbag go by. I mean, it's just amazing. And
but Steve, do you take in handbags?
Absolutely, handbags, and especially in Style Encore, but also Plato's Closet, are one of our hottest sellers. So if you can get a Coach bag into a Style Encore, and a lot of our franchisees utilize social media quite a bit, Facebook and Instagram in particular with Style Encore in that demographic, and you put a really beautiful Coach handbag up on Instagram, it's like Pavlov's dog. Their consumers respond immediately. They pick up the phone, they call the store, they say, hold on to that handbag, I'm coming in 10 minutes to pick it up. So it is a big part of the business. And, there's value there. Those are very expensive items. So when you can get those items, at significant discounts, there's a lot of folks who won't pay $300 for a Coach bag, but if they can get it at a Style Encore for $40 to $60, they'll line up at the door to get it.
I know. I asked my wife when she brings home a new bag, and I say, what did that cost? And she says, never mind.
Well, my wife tells me when she shops at Style Encore what she saved me. So she didn't tell me what she cost. She just says, well, honey, I saved this much. So I guess it's a different strategy.
I've been down that road many times. Back to you, Don.
Well, are your stores individually owned, or do you have master franchisees, or how does it work?
No, they're all individually owned and operated. So we do have multi-unit franchisees, and we have folks that are multi-brand franchisees. But the way that, and our philosophy and the way we like to grow at Winmark is one at a time. We really believe that we need to make sure, and I'm sure you guys see this all the time in your small businesses and dealing with the folks that own small businesses that listen to your program, everyone's got to be successful. Every business has to stand on its own. Every business has to produce a high enough profit that it's giving them the satisfactory return on investment they're looking for. So we try to be very, very particular with each of our franchisees, and we have an entire process we put them through when they want to add another store. Now, that being said, we've got about 800 franchisees, 1,200 stores, so about 1.5 per. But we have people that own as many as 15 to 20 franchises, and we have a lot of folks that own just one. And it really is dependent on what the individual goals of that franchisee are. If they want to be a single unit operator and it's a lifestyle choice and they want to spend more time with their family, they can do that. If they want to be a multi-unit operator and build up their little empire, as long as they're executing and doing well in each location, they can do that as well. And for a lot of our owners, they'll own a Once Upon a Child, a Plato's Closet, and a Style Encore. And what we say is they'll be able to kind of take that consumer from cradle to grave, because they literally will have that relationship with them all the way through. And we'll see a customer go from Once Upon a Child at 12 years old to suddenly now they're a customer of ours at our Plato's Closet.
So let me, if I could ask just one more question, Don. Let me ask you this. In the years that you've been in the business, not everybody succeeds as much as you would like them to, and as much as you try and help them to succeed. What are some of the reasons why in the franchising side of the business people fail?
I think number one is you've got to be involved in the business. There are franchises out there that they don't want the owner-operator or don't require the owner-operator involvement as much. In our world, you need to be involved in the business. We're buying and selling merchandise from our customers. We have cash going across the counter every single day. You need to be involved in this business in order to drive the business. Nobody is ever going to treat your business the same way you will as the owner-operator. So being involved is number one. If you're not involved in that business, or you have some success and then you decide you're going to work 2 days a week, you're not going to be as successful in this business as you can be. The other side of that is just being in retail. Retail is just not for everybody, and sometimes our franchisees will get into it and they'll realize that retail is a hard business. It's not a complicated business model, but it is a difficult business because you do have to show up every day, and you've got to put a smile on your face, and you've got to deal with your staff and the public, and you've got to be ready to handle that each and every day. So, where we see more owner-operators when they don't succeed, it's more likely to be something on the operational side where they have a partnership issue. Unfortunately, they go through a divorce or something else that disrupts the business. But we've been fortunate. I've been here 16 years. We have not had many closings, and we've had an awful lot of openings and an awful lot of successful franchisees. But you've got to be ready for it, and you've got to realize just because you're buying a franchise, it's still a small business, it's still a startup, and you still got to put the work in to be successful.
We're talking with Steve Murphy of Winmark. I ran them all together earlier. It's been a fascinating time with him, but unfortunately we're going to have to call it a day. Steve, tell us your websites again.
www.winmarkcorporation.com, www.winmarkfranchises.com, and we do have a recently launched division called Winmark Franchise Partners. So if you have anybody in the audience that has a great business and they're looking to get it franchised and get it started, we do help and consult and get people started in franchising, and that's through Winmark Franchise Partners, which is www.winmarkfranchisepartners.com.
Thank you so much for joining us, Steve, today. It's been a really eye-opener. Don't you think so, Dan?
Absolutely. Steve, it was a pleasure talking with you and learning more about your business, and good luck. And I'm going to look for your store for my daughter-in-law.
Okay. Well, we will welcome any new customer. But, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.
Well, Don, we are both type 2 diabetics, and I'm more recently diagnosed than you were, and my learning curve is accelerating rapidly. But recently I had a discussion with my doctor of the link between diabetes and dementia. Interesting that my doctor pointed out, I knew that in the case of both dementia and diabetes, that blacks and Hispanics have a much higher incidence of dementia than any other race, and didn't think about a connection that the same thing is true of dementia. Blacks and Hispanics are disproportional up to their size percentage have dementia. And the commonality between both diabetes and dementia is the two things that have the greatest impact on these two diseases are diet and exercise. And I've seen firsthand, by taking blood sugar counts before I exercise and after I exercise, the dramatic impact that exercise can have on reducing blood sugar. Of course, it also helps to have a low sugar or no sugar diet and watch your carbohydrates. But the thing that's important is that we have the Center for Disease Control estimates, Don, that about 40% of the adult population of the United States is either type 2 or pre-type 2 diabetics in the country. And the type 2 diabetes in young people is exploding. And the problem isn't just in the United States, it's all over the world.
You're absolutely right. As far as the dementia goes, some people have said I already have it, but what the heck? But for many years I had Dr. Stanley Mirsky as my physician for diabetes, and he wrote one of the best-selling books on diabetes. Unfortunately, he passed, but he always said to all of his patients, the key to it is moderation. He said, whatever you do, do it in moderation. Unfortunately, when you brought up about Hispanics and blacks, their diets are saturated with all of the wrong foods, the fatty oils that they fry in, etc., and a lot of their dishes. And when he addressed those audiences, Dr. Mirsky used to say, if you want to prevent diabetes, you're going to have to change your diet. He said, not totally, but somewhat. He said, more importantly, you needed to get out and exercise more. All of the things that you've been talking about. And his book, which went through 13 editions, the 14th actually came out after he died, discussed that. And, we're on our site and in our promotional efforts, we've been talking about this new book that that's come out, new dieting I get what I'd like to call lifestyle management plan. It really has made a difference to some of the people we have sent the book to. It's important that people take the first step and acknowledge that they either have diabetes or are prone to it, and they need to decide whether they're going to take control of their lives and find a plan that helps them live longer
and a more productive life. And I think that on our Recalculating.biz website is a link to the Diabetes Solution Kit, which is really 6 books in one that helps the person who has been diagnosed as a diabetic or recently diagnosed, and they have to look at the things that they need to do in order to extend their life, as you say. And for $20, they can get this book online. They can download it to their smartphone or their computer. I like the idea of downloading it to your smartphone because you can carry the booklet with you wherever you go because it's on your smartphone. And as I said, that's you can get a link to that just by going to our Recalculating.biz website, and I think it's the upper left-hand corner. There's a link to the Diabetes Solution Kit, and I think it's important. But I know we're talking about all the foods that are typically being eaten, and I used to say, even though I haven't been diagnosed that long. People were talking to me about the sugar that I take in, and a lot of people who are concerned about diabetes and concerned about health say it's the sugar sodas and the sugar drinks that are making the difference. And in reality, it's not. The sugar that has the greatest damage to the pancreas is the carbohydrates that we ingest. And if you look at in the case of the Mexican food with high concentrations of beans, rice, tortillas, all the things that are incredibly high in carbohydrates, they turn to sugar, and so that the blood sugar just races in a diet that is rich in those kinds of ethnic foods. And culturally, it becomes difficult for Hispanics or blacks to really change their diet to a totally different way of eating. There is no cure for diabetes. There is no cure, and there's no cure for dementia. But the idea that we can control our blood sugar by what we eat and the exercise that we go to and do, it's important. And for me, recently being diagnosed, it's important to me now to spend the time to communicate to people, hey, there's a problem here you need to be aware of. And 40% of the adult population, that's an astronomical number of people. And just think what it's doing to the cost of health care. And as much as I hate to think about it, amputation of fingers and toes and feet and hands, if you don't take care of yourself, that's the ramifications of diabetes. So it's a chronic disease that is not curable. You can control your blood sugar through diet and exercise and medication. And my goal, Don, is through diet and exercise, I want to control my blood sugar to the point that I don't need to take medication, and I can manage my diabetes by paying attention to what I eat and getting exercise. And I think that's an important part of the whole treatment process. If I'm healthier and I can get my diabetes under control, I believe I can affect those odds about me getting dementia.
You know, Dan, you're absolutely right. And someone said to me, why should I spend, with all of the free medical advice around, why should I spend $20 for something like this? And, you know, I have a very good answer. When you pay for something, you're more apt to follow the advice than if you get it free. It's one of the more interesting things. Dr. Mirsky used to say there was all the pharmaceutical companies gave away the same information that was in his book, but people bought his book because that was it forced them to realize that they had spent money, so they better take the advice. And that's one of the reasons why the book is priced as it is. It's not expensive, but it's designed that there's some skin in the game for the individuals. And all of us who have diabetes should put more than just the skin in their game. They should put both feet inside. Back to you, Dan.
I agree with you totally. I do believe that having written the book on dementia and spent a lot of time with researchers, how much education is important. And now with the diabetes, education is very important, and understanding the amount of carbohydrates that you're taking in are very important. And so you're going to have to change and put a different kind of discipline in your life. And I think that if you have a plan or a roadmap, there's an old Chinese proverb, Don, that says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Well, if you have diabetes, you have to have a plan. You have to know where you're going. What are your goals? And then you've got to develop a plan that allows you to get to the goals that you want. And I set as a goal when I finished the classes that I wanted to reduce my carbohydrate level, which in turn would reduce my sugar, which in turn would have a positive impact on my blood sugar. So I had a discussion with my wife about eating a couple of nights ago, and I said, you know, I really used to like to eat, and today I guess I feel like I'm eating to survive. It's not as much fun as it used to be, but that's just the reality of life with being a diabetic. If I eat all the things that I shouldn't, it's going to impact me. And I think the other thing is that well, Dan,
I'd like to interrupt you there because that's discussed in the book. but I will tell you that's an absolute normal occurrence for people when they first get the diagnosis that they are. And I'll give you a great example. I used to put a lot of sugar in my coffee, and I used to love Cokes. But over the years, I cannot now put sugar in my coffee, nor can I drink non-diet sodas, because your body and your mind gets used to the fact that you can't have them. You're right. Right now, you're going through that stage where someone called it the worst withdrawal symptoms. But over time, you're going to discover that your love of the foods are going to take you back. You just have to go adjust it. I'm giving you that advice as a man who's dealt with diabetes for over 20 years, I'm sure I've told you my mother and aunts all had diabetes, but the answer is when you change your diet, it kind of gets to you, but after a while you kind of get used to it, and more importantly, you sneak these treats every once in a while, and they taste so much better.
Yeah, I guess. One thing a piece of advice that I learned that really shocked me, that I would like to give to our listeners, especially those ones that are diabetic, the non-sugar sweeteners, and I'm not going to mention any of them by name, but I heard from my doctor something that was just appalling to me. She said, go look at the labels of the artificial sweeteners. And what you're going to find is, spelled in a totally different way, the main ingredient is in a packet is very, very small. So in order to create the volume that they need to put it in a packet, you know what they put in with the artificial sweetener, Don? Sugar. Sugar. You go to look at any of the artificial sweeteners, including the natural ones, and you look at them, and what you'll see is you'll see dextrose, you'll see corn syrup. Those are all sugars. They're not called sugar, they're called something else. So be real careful. And I don't understand this. Just to get, again, packaging. If you buy a box of sugar-free Jell-O, it has sugar in it. But if you if you go into the grocery store and you buy the pre-made Jell-O in the plastic cup, no sugar. So you have to become a detective now to begin to read the labels to understand all the things that they can talk about that are sugars, but they don't call sugars. So it's important that we understand that sugar is the ultimate culprit, but it isn't just cane sugar. There are other kinds of sugar and carbohydrates in bread and pasta and in cakes and cookies and pies and tortillas and even in vegetables. Vegetables have carbohydrates. Counting your carbohydrates every day is something you're going to be doing the rest of your life. And I appreciate the encouragement but my desire, and I'll be able to eat things, will get better because, it's not any fun eating. And my wife is really working really hard to try and cook meals that are very sensitive to diabetes. So in closing, I want to, again, encourage our listeners to go to recalculating.biz and look in the upper left-hand corner, I think, for the Diabetic Solution Kit link. Go there, invest $20, and buy something that you'll use probably for the rest of your life. This is Dan Perkins.
And this is Don Mazzella.
Thank you for joining us on Recalculating. We hope the information you received on today's episode was helpful to you in starting and growing your business. Please go to our website, recalculating.biz, to contact us, to listen to past shows, and see special offers. Until next time, remember, if you grow, we grow. Join us next week for more helpful ideas to make your business a great success. Recalculating, a program designed to help you be successful.